All right. So this is my harebrained idea is to just go live. I have a 2-week-old baby sleeping and I have a toddler sleeping. So if at any point they wake up, I'm just going to be done. But I did not have time to make an official video with some of my favorite Christmas resources, Advent resources. And I was really, really sad about that because I feel like it's just hard to keep Christmas about Jesus, and it's hard to know, like, what kind of resources are best to go ahead and get, and now would be the time to start gathering the resources, and then also, you're being inundated with all kinds of sales right now, and so I just wanted to share a couple of sales that I actually shopped that have been very, very helpful for my family so that, they can just maybe be a blessing for your family, but in no way do you need to shop these. They've just been really helpful for me. So I just thought it would be fun to go live. Feel free to hop in the chat. I have never gone live like this with like a wet head. But I just felt like I've just been learning so much and I really, really wanted a quick, easy way to share without having to edit a video with a 2-week-old. So, like I said, if I hear the baby upstairs, I am going to go grab her. But um one thing happened this week that was really sad, and that was that my husband's grandma passed away. And so he took the three bigs to go to the funeral. I couldn't travel because it was just too far. But one resource that is really, really been helpful to us when we've lost family members, I just have like a huge stack of resources, guys. I think this is like a show and tell. I'm just going to show and tell. Look, the cover is completely gone. This is Someday Heaven. And it's so, so, so good. Like, I need to order a new copy, but it has really blessed Matt and I when we go to answer hard questions. Will there be other children in heaven? Will I meet, will anyone meet me when I get to heaven? How long will I be in heaven? It answers really hard questions about heaven, but it's been such a good resource because our kids, after a family member passes away, they want to know, like, how do I get there and how long will I be there? And it's just good to have because it's hard to answer those questions. So definitely, I'm actually going to send this to a friend who just lost her grandma, and it's just a sweet resource that and it's a good resource to send to somebody who has lost a loved one, just an easy way to love on their family. So let's dive into Christmas resources. So I just printed it out and put it in a notebook, but I love the Peaceful Press. So I have all of her Christmas guides. She just came out with another guide and I haven't actually put it in a notebook yet. She's got the volume 2 of her Christmas guide and then the holiday book flood, which is such a fun name. But there's so many good crafts in here. And here is the thing that's so great about her resources are her book list. Her book lists are just vetted. Like, what I mean by that is, I don't know if you've ever gone to the library and you just pick up a random book. And I actually talked about this in one YouTube video, how I don't really take my kids to the library anymore. And the reason being, one, we destroy library books. I just feel like it's one thing I can't keep up with. I don't know if anybody else can resonate with that. But the other thing is, I just don't know what I'm going to get off the shelf. And I trust the heart of Jennifer Pepito so much, and her resources are so good. And, her curriculum isn't completely geared towards Christians, but it definitely has the heart of Christ and woven through so many of her resources. And so I really, really trust her book list. And I've actually gotten some books from, this is like an example of a book that came off of her book list. And it's the sweetest story. It touches our heart every time we read it. And I feel like those are the kind of books I want to keep in my home, is books that just like really touch our soul every time we read them. And, we can come back to them time after time after time, and they just don't get old. And this is about a little boy who gets up at like 4 a.m. in the morning to milk the cow, and how he hates it, but there's just so many character lessons woven through, and then, Christ woven through. So just like little books like that are what you can find in her curriculum, just good, solid, trusted book lists. So I love that. Okay. Just for like a family devotional, this kind of goes over our kids' heads a little bit, but Come Let Us Adore Him by Paul Tripp. We love Paul Tripp. Sometimes he's hard to read because he just he just really hits you hard with the truth, but it's good and it's just day by day. And so, we don't get to it all the time, but when we do get to it, I feel like it's just exactly what we need to recenter our hearts towards Christ in the Christmas season. So this is a great resource just to have. And we will read it to the kids, even though it may go over their head, but you never know what they're actually absorbing. And so it's definitely not a waste of time to read it to them. Okay, this is a Advent resource. Now, this is interesting because I don't recommend every part of this book. We don't teach our kids like evolutionist thought, and there are some things in here that are very like, so we kind of just edit it out. But here's what I will say: what this all creation waits, which is part of this Christmas, this oh gosh, this Christmas guide by Peaceful Press. This is like one of the things that she recommends in this original Christmas guide. But what has taught my kids is that all of creation is like waiting for Christ to return. And all of creation, like it just has helped them understand that nature is even waiting in a really strange way. It's so beautiful. And it goes through different animals and what they do in the wintertime. And it's been really fun just to have a conversation of like, one of the chapters, one of the days is about the turtle, and that the turtle goes to the bottom of the creek and is like embedded in the mud, and it's kind of hard to explain, but I feel like nature is meant to point us to the creator. And so I feel like this book is in a really strange way, it does that. And so that's been a fun resource for us to go through. And we don't beat ourselves up. Like if we don't do Advent one day, it's not like all is lost. And I feel like sometimes it can feel like all or nothing. Like if I can't do Advent to the max, like I don't want to do Advent at all. But I think it's just like do what you can, and it's going to be beneficial whatever you get in to help nudge and point your family towards Christ. So I definitely don't think it's a waste. Some great Christmas music I have been loving is, I don't know if you've ever listened to Phil Wickham's Christmas album, Totally Gold. Like, I feel like if you just tell if you use Siri or Alexa, if you tell one of them to play Christmas music, it's always going to be like holiday music. And so I feel like just having some good playlists that actually is singing about Christ, like worship music, that is about what Christmas is actually about, is so, so beautiful to have. And so Phil Wickham Christmas album is, just all the time on at our house. Another fun one is Dave Barnes' Christmas album. He has a really sweet, like one sweet song that's about like Mary and what it could have been like for her to wait on Jesus. It's really sweet. But then also just some really fun Christmas music that actually was Matt and I's first date like 12 years ago, was we went to a Christmas concert. So it's always been like near and dear to our heart. So we really enjoy that album. If you want to, I think it'd be really great if you left in the comments some Christmas resources, Advent resources, Christmas playlist that have been really good for your family, because I feel like like especially with music, it's not like everybody's listening to the same thing. So I would love to hear if you have some good Christmas music that's actually about Christ. I need some more albums like that. Okay, this is an amazing book. This I actually I'm embarrassed to say, I think I borrowed this from my mentor 10 years ago, and I think it's still her copy. I think I need to rebuy her a copy because I think this was hers. But actually, I feel like she eventually just said you can keep it. But this is Noelle Piper. This is John Piper's wife. And when you dig down into some theology holes, some people don't like John Piper's theology. But however you feel about John Piper, this is still an amazing, amazing book. This she tells you basically how to treasure Christ in all of the traditions that you make for your home. And when you think about, having a new family and getting married and creating your own traditions, like maybe you love the traditions that you grew up with, and maybe you want to keep those, but maybe you want to make your own traditions. And that's not always easy to do if you haven't seen it modeled. And so she just gives some really sweet ideas for, Thanksgiving, Easter, Christmas. And it's really, really sweet and really, really rich. And she gives some recipe ideas. She gives some craft ideas. But there's some beautiful poems and so like especially Christmas right here. So this chapter and John Piper has written some poetry in here and he kind of speaks to she even talks about Santa, which can be, controversial and I don't think it's terrible if you do Santa, but she gives like a case of why they didn't do Santa and what they did instead because you don't want to just take something away and not add something sweet. And so she talks about that and yeah, it's really beautiful. I love this resource as well. Okay, so the shirt I have on is The Miracle is in Motion, and this was from the Wild and Free conference, and I am a big Wild and Free homeschool fan. I just love getting my kids outside and in nature, and that's one thing I really, really want to talk to you about is this book right here. I'm reading this book, and I heard about it on 1,000 Hours Outside, and when she started off the podcast saying, when I created 1,000 Hours Outside way back in the day, not way back in the day, probably a couple years ago, she said this book influenced her the most. And when I heard that this book was one of the most influential books in her creating 1,000 Hours Outside, I was like, I want that book right now. So I ordered it. Thank you, Amazon. It came in like 24 hours and I am a couple chapters in, but I'm also simultaneously listening to that podcast. And I did not get to link that podcast in the description box, but I will. And it's just so good because she's talking about why kids are not thriving right now, like why they're having so many sensory issues, why they're having so many asthma issues, immune issues, why their motor development is not doing well, like just why kids are not even as strong as they were in 1980. And it's so fascinating. She's an occupational therapist and she created it's called Timber Nook, and there's all these places all over the US you can go, but it's basically about how kids need to be outside and then how to get them outside and what to do with them outside and how we probably just interfere too much as adults trying to keep kids safe. And so I'm loving, like, I can't even tell you, I'm loving this book. It's super inspiring to me that I need to just get my kids outside more and just all that is being developed in their vestibular sense, like in their just spatial awareness, but also their motor development, their speech, like so much is happening when kids are that it's definitely not a waste of time. And I can feel that way sometimes with homeschool, like, oh man, we need to get to the academics. But she makes a strong case of why being outside, even when it gets cold, is one of the most beneficial things we can do for our kids. So I'm loving that book. I will link that podcast when I get off of this live and add the links that I can get. I seriously planned this live in like 15 minutes, guys. But I was like, I have this window of time and I just want to share this stuff with you. These two are amazing. This is great for some Christmas crafts, and that's what we're going to do. I just went and did like a Walmart delivery order and got some like little things to do, but just different like ways to decorate Christmas garlands. Like I really want to try these hand embroidered stars, these little like embroidery hoops. But it's just sweet, like how to dry out some oranges, things like that are not hard to do. But this handicraft book, which is really similar to this holiday one, just makes a really strong case of why handicrafts build confidence, creativity, and skill, and why handicrafts can feel like a waste of time. And I'm not a especially crafty person, like pretty much at all. I am a sportsy person, I'm an outdoorsy person, but this is just really making me want to stretch myself. And I want to show you these beautiful like paper stars. We made this. I don't know if we made these last year or the year before, but these are literally just like little lunch, like those paper lunch bags. And then you just put like battery powered lights. Like I'm so excited to do these with the kids. Look, it's so simple. Like you just glue or staple them together. So that's just an example of like, I could have gone out and bought a ton of Christmas decor, but really what's more meaningful, I think, is to sit down and do like handicrafts with the kids. And even if it doesn't turn out super beautiful, who cares? It's just up for like a month, right? But they feel so empowered when they see the decorations that they've made. And so yeah, these are two really amazing resources. Even if you don't homeschool your kids, um, just even in the after hours, after school, or on the weekends, are some really great ideas. Because when kids are working with their hands on something, especially like fine motor, it's doing so much for their brain, and like I said, their confidence, just that they can make really cool things. So I am loving that those books have been really fun for me to pick through and get ideas for. Okay. All right. So talked about Peaceful Press. I'm obsessed with them. I'm obsessed with her book list. I'm sure that she is having a Black Friday sale. I think I put a link in there in a code for her Black Friday stuff. Okay. And then I want to share a couple of Black Friday sales that have been really helpful for my family. So maybe they're helpful for you. Just Ingredients. Okay, they did not send me this stuff. They have sent me stuff before. This was my order. I took my kids to a homeopathic dentist lately, and what I learned is that one of the reasons why my kids are probably getting cavities, this is a side note. I'm going to loop back to Just Ingredients, but is that they're probably snacking too often and they're disrupting the acidity in their mouth, because if you keep eating throughout the day and never your mouth always stays at an acidic level. But one thing she shared with me is that you can try to remineralize your teeth. That's a hard word to say, remineralize, if the cavity hasn't gotten into the dentin. And so she recommends these tooth powders. And I've actually used this cool mint one myself. And you just wet your toothbrush and you dip it into the tooth powder. I got my kids this fresh citrus because I just didn't know if sometimes like the mint one and this one, it's really great. I love it. It can feel a little spicy to kids. So I got them the sensitive and I got them the citrus because we have 3 kids that are on the brink of like their cavities kind of advancing. And then she talks about taking like one of those little flosser sticks and then dipping it into like a mouthwash. So this one is Just Ingredients, and so I think her sale is 20% off right now. But what we're going to do with this is they can either swish it, but we're going to take the flosser and dip it like in a little shot glass with a little bit of this to get down in between the teeth. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then I picked up this hot chocolate because I thought that would be fun for the Christmas season. I like making some homemade whipped cream. And then Matt is obsessed with this protein powder. It's like peanut butter chocolate. And I like to make protein bites with these. But he just mixes it with like the raw milk that we get at a local farm. We have a local farm where we can get raw milk for $4 a gallon. If you really look around, I think it's raw milk near me. I think that's the website. You can find places around you that may not be that expensive. And I think the one sale I shopped last night was Walker Family Goods. I meant to bring their sweet little backpack downstairs, but when it comes to getting kids outside, one thing that can be really empowering for them is them carrying their own stuff. And so they make a little kid's backpack. It's like this small, and it has a latch right here. And they just put like 1 to 2 little snacks and maybe their water bottle into that backpack. But even Sunny, my 3-year-old, like she on a scooter ride today, she wanted to wear her backpack. Okay, so Walker Family Goods, I think this is like their 30% off sale. So my cart last night was like 3 something. And then when I added the 30% off, it took it down $122 or something like that. Crazy. And I got the kids little lunch boxes that we can take to our co-op on Wednesday. And I got it where their lunchbox matches their backpack color. And I got 2 of them a backpack because 2 of them already have backpacks. And I got Matt a toiletry thing. I probably shouldn't have said that in case he watches this, because you'll know what he's getting for Christmas. And yeah, they even have these like little slings. I guess it would be like a fanny pack or something like that. But kids could pack a little snack in those and take them on a walk. Because I think what can be kind of defeating if you want to go on a nature walk with your kids is feeling like you're lugging everything. And so just empowering kids when you get out into nature, like, hey, you have your backpack, so you can carry your own snack and your own water, and you can put your nature treasures into your own backpack, instead of feeling like we have to carry everything. I did ask my mother-in-law for a backpack that's actually a cooler. I'm excited about possibly getting that because that's another thing is like, yeah, I can carry the bulk of the food if they can just carry their water bottle and their snack. But anyways, that sale is happening right now and they don't put their stuff on sale hardly ever. And I don't have a code for that, but I think their code was give thanks 30. So I shopped that last night. Okay. Two more things I wanted to share. One, a fascinating podcast, I'm going to add it to the description box too, was that I listened to, it's How I Built This with Guy Raz. It's one of my absolute favorite podcasts. And he interviews different business owners, founders on how they created their business. I just love it. He interviewed two guys who created the light phone. And it's just like Light, light. And one thing I'm kind of thinking about, you guys, is I'm kind of thinking about getting rid of my smartphone in 2024. I've thought about it for a long time. There was actually a period of time a couple of years ago where my phone broke and I didn't have a couple $100s to go replace it. And quite honestly, I was mad that it had broken and I had spent that much. And I went and got a flip phone for $35 and used it for like 7 months until I started Girl Teach Me and I felt like I needed a smartphone for Instagram. But one thing I'm kind of realizing is I'm not on Instagram that much. I actually really prefer YouTube. I prefer talking with all of you guys in the comments and through email. Actually, when I send out emails, oftentimes I say, hey, please reply. I want to talk to you. And I actually get a fair amount of replies. And that's been a really sweet way to connect is through email. And I'm realizing that Instagram's not as essential as I thought. Let me take a sip of water. I was influenced by Terry Lynn Adams. I don't know if you know who she is. She's a dear friend, and this was the Stanley knockoff that she recommended that doesn't leak as much. And I like it, except for I didn't like the straw that came with it because I feel like it kind of tasted plasticky. But this other straw I had, is working good. But I want to remember exactly what I was saying. Oh yeah. So I'm thinking about getting the light phone and it's 20% off. And it's a phone that like you can have GPS, podcast, text messages, but it's basically like a dumbed down phone that is not addictive. And I just feel like so often I'm just reaching for this thing and it's keeping me distracted. So I'm kind of thinking about just doing something different. I don't know how you guys feel about your phone. I know sometimes it's like a love hate, like we feel like we have to have it, but then sometimes we just like, ugh, I don't want to feel addicted to that phone. I don't want to constantly be looking for that dopamine hit. Okay. Last sale I wanted to tell you about was Toups and Co. I don't know. I've talked a lot about Toups and Co. because this is tallow. And what's so interesting about tallow is it's animal fat and it actually absorbs really good into your skin and gives you a lot of minerals and nutrients back to your skin. So I actually rubbed this on my belly. It looks like I don't have much because this is my second jar. And it helped me not get a lot of stretch marks. And I've been putting it on the baby on her little dry feet. And then I've got some that I've actually put on my face and it just feels so good. It absorbs right into your skin. And I talk about this like with boots, like when you have boots, like when you're oiling boots, you want to use an animal fat because it's leather. And I feel like it's the same thing. Like plant oil doesn't quite soak into my skin and hydrate like this animal fat does, but tallow oftentimes smells beefy. I don't know if you've ever smelt beefy tallow, and this doesn't smell like that at all. So it says ads will run shortly for some viewers. I've never done this with live, guys, so bear with me. But okay, and then the other thing I did was I got some foundation samples from Toups and Go, and I'm actually going to order some foundation from them because I like it and it feels like it really absorbed good into my skin. And I think they're having a 20% off sale right now too. So it's so tricky. It can just feel like everybody wants your money this time of year, and it can actually feel really, really stressful. And I feel like one thing I've been saying to a couple of moms, and I've been saying to myself, is so little is needed or required to be a good mom. It's just so true. We can be a good mom without all of these things. And, without the bohemian thing, without all the baby items, we can still be a really, really good mom. And so if you're just feeling stressed about all the things that you feel like you need to buy for your kids, maybe just focus on getting some stuff that will help you guys get outside as a family, some good books, just like a scooter or a ninja course or something that you can string between two trees, like something that's going to get you outside a little bit more. Those feel like the gift that keeps on giving versus like the trinkety things. But I know the baby's going to wake up soon, so I'm going to wrap it up. But thanks for hanging out with me. I hope these resources are just helpful to you. I'm looking around to make sure I didn't miss anything. And yeah, I think ultimately with the Christmas season, I think it's just about slowing down, just treasuring Christ as a family and not getting sucked up into the world telling us we have to have all these things. It's just so not essential. And this was so fun. Maybe we'll do this again sometime. I'll just hop on here again with wet hair and just go. So I'll talk to you guys soon.